Welcome back. All right, so in my continuing look at teams that missed the playoffs, today we're going to look at the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators were not supposed to be as bad as they were this season. Like, the idea that they don't make the playoffs this season, if I had suggested that at the start of the season, I don't think people would have got too upset. I think there would have been, well, we hope they get in, but they should be close. They weren't close. They finished the season with 78 points, a record of 37, 41, and 4. Kind of a disaster. Coach firing takes place. Jacques Martin takes over. I thought Martin did a good job with this team, but there's clearly still a lot of work to be done by Steve Staios, the general manager, to fix this. And I don't think it's necessarily going to be easy either. Last season they had 86 points. It felt like they were so close to being a playoff team and maybe going on a run, and things could get better, and here we are. The playoff drought is up to 7 seasons. So it's 7 seasons now since the Ottawa Senators made the playoffs, and for Sens fans, the patience is wearing thin. The new arena and all the talk with the new arena, of course, that should go through, shouldn't be a problem, but what's the team going to look like that takes the ice there, and will they be a contender by then? And I think that's a legit question to ask. The draft lottery is not in their favor. They have a 6.5% chance of drafting first, 6.7% chance of drafting second, a 0.2% chance of drafting third, and they can't draft fourth, fifth, or sixth. They have a 44.4% chance of drafting seventh, 36.5% chance of drafting eighth, and a 5.6% chance of drafting ninth. So my guess is seventh or eighth in the draft for them, which doesn't do them a lot of good. This is an Ottawa team that I will say this, though. I don't know how many more young players you want to add. They've got a lot of young players, and a lot of good young players, too. They were 18th in goals for, so the goals for wasn't bad, but the goals against, not great. 26th. The blue line a problem. The goaltending a problem this year, and the blue line and the goaltending weren't supposed to be the problem this year that they were. Now, when I get to New Jersey, we can definitely focus on the fact Dougie Hamilton gets hurt, and that hurts their season on the blue line. With Ottawa, tougher to make the argument that somebody getting hurt on the blue line makes that huge difference. But, I mean, I guess you can make that argument with certain players being out at certain times. But, again, during the season, the effort wasn't good enough. The results not being where you want them to be. They did start the season 11-11. They had games in hand on everybody as well who they were chasing. But then they lost 6 straight after that. And you're not going to get back into the hunt. Early in the season, of course, fans get upset when you say that. It's very much like, hey, we're just 25 games into the season. There's so much time left. Yeah, but if the team isn't good, if the team's great, fine. But if the team isn't good, and there was definitely some reason to think the Sens weren't good for various reasons, and injuries are included in that as well. But the idea that they're magically going to turn it around and win 7 or 8 in a row to get themselves back in the hunt, it just didn't work out that way. Moving on to their top 3 scorers this season, Brady Tkachuk was their leading scorer, 37 goals, 37 assists, 74 points in 81 games. He's the face of the franchise up front. He is their captain. I thought at times that the emotions took over for him a little bit too much, especially late in the season, but I do understand that this season had to be really, really frustrating for him. They came into this season with so much hope. And Stützle, 18 goals. He didn't even hit 20 goals. He did have 52 assists. He does end up with 70 points in 75 games, but those 18 goals really stand out. Stützle's way too talented to only have 18 goals in a season. Then you got Drake Batherson, who had a good year. 28 goals, 38 assists, 66 points in 82 games. I thought Jake Sanderson, up and down season, but the numbers, not bad. 79 games, 10 goals, 28 assists, 38 points. People will still say his contract's too high. I still think his contract is fine. It takes a little bit longer for defensemen to get up to speed, usually, in most cases. And Sanderson having 38 points in 79 games, that's pretty good. Ridley Gregg didn't quite have the year that Sens fans would have wanted. 13 goals, 13 assists, 26 points in 72 games. Robbie Yarventi gets into 7 games, 1 assist there. Tyler Clevin played 9 games, 1 assist. And Ostapchuk got into 7 games, did not record a point. This section here, of course, being players 22 years of age or younger. And then in net, Korpisalo, 21, 26, and 4 overall, 890 save percentage. Forsberg, 15 and 12, 890 save percentage. Mads Sogard went 1 and 3 with an 859 save percentage. The goaltending was not good enough. And the problem is, we get into contracts, I don't know what you're going to do, because that Korpisalo contract isn't very movable. There's Claude Giroux. $6.5 million. He's up next year. So if this team gets off to a slow start, look for Giroux to end up on the move. Chychrun, $4.6 million. His contract's up next year. There's been all kinds of talk about Chychrun and whether or not they're going to keep him. I would not be surprised to see Chychrun get moved in the offseason. They need more veterans on that blue line. They need somebody who's going to really tie all that together, and I don't know that they have that right now. Korpisalo, $4 million a year until 2028. So that contract has already aged poorly, and we'll see whether or not they're able to figure this out in net. Because without a solid number one goaltender they can rely on, they're not getting into a playoff spot in the East. Every team that finished above the playoff line in the East had a goaltender they believed in. Yes, the Caps got wiped out in 4, but man, Charlie Lindgren had himself quite the regular season. And then there's the Josh Norris question as well. Josh Norris just can't stay healthy. $7.95 million cap hit until 2030. So for Norris, it's a matter of he needs to be able to stay healthy. The team needs to figure this out. And again, they need more goal scoring from him when he is healthy. Just a bad year for everybody. With some exceptions, of course, but it feels like everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Sens this year. Their pending UFA list is short. It is Kubalik, who I think is, he's going to market, Smeagol, and Chartier. So, it's a short list. Their pending RFAs, Pinto. So what do you do with Shane Pinto? Shane Pinto was pretty good in that second half of the season after his suspension was done. And I think you'd be right to ask if Pinto's in the lineup all year, is their record better? Maybe a little bit. I don't know that they're a playoff team, though, if Pinto's in the lineup. Parker Kelly, Boris Kachuk, Eric Brandstrom, Lassie Thompson, and Mads Sogard. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not Brandstrom could end up being on the move. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if he was. But Pinto is the one to keep an eye on because I think he showed he could be a very good second-line center, and I think he's going to get paid like one. So we'll see how that turns out because for cap space, they have $12,165,953, which is going to get eaten up pretty quickly. And this is where it's interesting to me, because unlike the other teams that I've been talking about in these videos, Ottawa's already paying these guys like this is a playoff team or a playoff contending team, and it's just not. So they can't go out on the free agent market and pick up a bunch of players. They can't go out and pick up that depth unless they trade Chychrun and don't bring any money back. Maybe Claude Giroux goes to them and goes, you know what, last year my contract, I want a chance to maybe win a cup, and then he ends up back in Florida or going wherever. Just using that as an example, not saying that's necessarily going to happen, but they could use a little bit more cap space if they decide they want to be aggressive in July, and it could be hard to come by. Really, really very much so. So we'll see. Now, one thing that's hanging over the head of this franchise is the forfeited pick. So when Michael Andlauer took over the team and then this forfeited pick thing happens, he wasn't very happy because the NHL didn't give him a heads up that this could happen. Where they're forfeiting either the 2024, 2025, or 2026 first-round draft pick. And we don't know which one they're going to pick yet. Now, with the likelihood they're going to draft 7th, I think you keep this one. But isn't Arizona still owed a draft pick from them as well? And if it's not this year, it would have to loop into next year. It gets kind of ugly. So anyways, that's because of the Dodonov trade. So remember, Dodonov gets traded, and then he ends up going back to Vegas. And everybody laughed at Vegas because Vegas didn't do their homework. Turned out Ottawa didn't do their homework before trading him to Vegas. And so Ottawa paid the price there. Those Sens fans, still not very happy. Don't mention it to them. They're kind of ticked off about it. They do have the Bruins first-round draft pick this year, so that's not going to be an early first-round draft pick, but it's something. The one thing, as I said, is this is a team that already has a lot of good young players. This is a team that has a lot of good young players that, like Yaraventi, Ostapchuk, there's still a lot of growth there, but they need the right veterans to add to that. Giroux is great. Giroux's been fantastic in Ottawa. They need more of that. And I don't know how they're necessarily going to fix this. It just felt at times like there was a lot of young players, a lot of inexperience, and just they didn't know how to reverse it when things started going wrong for the team. Which is weird because last season they were much better at it than they were this year. So maybe they can channel what they did last year. I don't know how you're necessarily going to fix it. They're going to be an interesting team to watch this summer because I guess if you're Steve Staios, you have to consider moving one of the young, pillars of this franchise to try to make things work. But who do you move? And then if you don't move any of the young pillars of this franchise, you don't make big moves, how do you sell this to the fans come September? Training camp rolls around, the team looks largely the same. How do you sell that? So I do wonder what they're going to do this summer and how they're going to fix this, but they're really up against it. So for the Ottawa Senators, a team that coming into this season we had a lot of optimism about that seems to have fallen by the wayside now. But let me know your thoughts. Do you think that this team's better than what their record was this year and they could just bounce back next year? Which, again, sure, that could be possible. Maybe Norris is 100% healthy. He scores about 40. You got Pinto for the whole season. And maybe you just make an addition on the blue line and everything works out. Or, is this team in trouble? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.